Thank you, sir. Fellow Lions, this is just a happy buck for a beautiful day that we've got, and let's hopefully get a couple more.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all that you do for us. This is Veterans Day. Please bless all our active military and all of our veterans, particularly those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Please bless everyone. Bless this food to our bodies. Bless us in your service, and we'll give you the praise. Amen.
Amen. And Ron, would you lead us in the pledge?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Marilyn, will you lead us in song? My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
President Russ, fellow Lions and guests, I was asked by our past president to make an announcement about the zone meeting. There's going to be a zone meeting on the 29th of this month from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the PUD. This is on a Saturday. So if you'd like to join us,
Acting Russ, fellow Lions and guests, I just wanted to, Acting Russ, Acting President Russ.
Acting Russ is probably better.
Pretending to be Prez today. Okay. Thank you for voting for Peace Poster. I was going to bring it, but I needed to pass it on to the district governor because of the winner. The winning poster was the one with the rainbow and the little girl holding her hands like she's holding her poster. Yes, and then the second place winner was the one with the big heart. Very simply done. The simply said is how I felt. It was really nice. And the third place winner just happened to be John Morrison, who was Frank Morrison's, one of his adopted sons. So I thought that was really neat that he spoke that day and we voted on a poster, but he was third place. And that was the one with lots of hearts all over the page. So I'd say he's a happy adopted child. I wanted to say something else, but I don't know what it is. So, presentations? Okay, Steve and I went over to the school and gave that presentation on last Thursday morning during their chapel time. So, good time, good time.
Good job. Acting President Russ, fellow Lions and guests, the boys and girls, under the direction of the board, donated $150 to the Booster Club at LCC. And in that, we have 2 booster tickets, home games to any LCC game. Anyone, home games. And anyway, I don't know how we're going to give them out. What I'm going to do is give them to the secretary. Oh, he don't like that. And anyway, hey, is somebody going to an LCC game this week? Are you? Well, this week, something LCC. I mean, these are free passes for the whole year.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Sam, are you going to go? Auction. Well, there's nobody else to go. Okay, how much?
Throw a number up there, George.
$2 right there.
2 tickets for one.
2 tickets.
Oh, yeah, sure, $2.
$40 for this week only. $4. We got $4 here. Come on, anybody stick their hand up?
Mike, can you clarify it? Is it for the season or just this week?
This week.
How are you going to get the tickets back?
Okay, all right, everybody said, let's go for raffle the thing off for the whole year.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. You want $40? 45. Here we go. There we go. They are 45, 45. How about 50? Boy, you're good at this. Hang up. Okay. Third grader, $45.
Thank you, Mike. The Christmas party has been scheduled
December
for
12th.
December 12th. It's a Friday, and it'll be at 6:30, and we're going to try it right here. So hopefully you all can make it, and we'll give you some more information as we get closer. But it's scheduled for the 12th of December, right here. 6:30.
Thank you, Acting President Russ. In following with the programs, last week, if you're here, we had Frank Morrison from the Community House and having other organizations that benefit from the United Way. And today, we're bringing back Corie Dow from CASA. Corie was here a couple years ago and spoke to us, and she brought a fellow worker who I work with as a volunteer for CASA, Beth Fellows, and they're going to give you a presentation. Just very briefly, and a lot of you know, I've been working as a volunteer with CASA for just finishing 6 years now, representing children as their advocate in court in the cases, trying to determine their, where they're going to go, if they're going back to their natural home or foster home. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Corie, and she'll give you the information that you need to do, and hopefully can find a few volunteers here amongst our members. Corie Dow.
Hi, thank you for having me back. As Tom said, this is Beth Fellows, and she is, her title is volunteer supervisor. So I said to Tom, it's a little bit of a misnomer because she is actually a paid staff member, but she supervises volunteers, such as Tom. She actually has, he takes up a lot of her time, but she manages to keep an eye on the other 25. Yeah. We also have one other volunteer supervisor on staff who supervises volunteers. So for those of you, because it's been a couple years, my quick 2-minute CASA summary. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, and it was a program that was created in King County in 1977, so it's a very local concept. A judge at that time was hearing dependency cases, which are the cases where kids have had to have state intervention in order to ensure that they are safe. So what a lot of us would call foster care, CPS intervention. Judge Sukup was having a really hard time knowing what to do with the children because the parents had attorneys, social workers had attorneys, but he didn't feel like he had anyone who was just telling him what was going on with the kids. The way he reiterates the story is that he would lay awake at night thinking about these kids and worried about what if I made the wrong decision, what if I didn't know everything. And he decided he'd really rather put that pressure on some community members like Tom. So he gave a list of people in the King County area to his bailiff and asked him to call them and set up a meeting. And he presented the concept to this community group of training volunteers to be guardian ad litems in the court system and speak on behalf of abused and neglected children. And from there, it's grown into a nationwide program, which is pretty amazing over the course of just since 1977. There's CASA programs all across the country. In Washington State, there are only a couple of counties that don't have CASA programs. So really, really impressive to think about all of those volunteers giving their time just to get to know kids and present to the courts about what's going on with them. Our volunteers get 32 hours of training initially, and we tell them about child welfare, how the system works, how the courts work, how families work, all kinds of information that we throw at them over the course of those 32 hours. They have to pass CPS background checks and FBI background checks. And then we take them to the courtroom and a judge swears them in as an officer of the court, and we hand them a case and say, go have fun. And off they run. Most of our volunteers in our program right now have been with us for around 5 years. It's amazing to me every day when I look at the longevity of our volunteers and think, wow, some days it's hard for me to come here because there's just so much emotional information and I get paid for it. And we have all these amazing community members who just give their time and care for these children. Because of those community members, our program is able to serve every single child in Cowlitz County that comes in front of our dependency court judge. We don't turn anyone away, we don't waitlist them, so every child that comes in from birth to until they age out at 18 gets appointed a CASA in our community, which means they have someone whose sole purpose is to speak to the court about their best interest. It's different than an attorney who represents a child's, if an attorney is appointed, and teens also have attorneys, and they represent what a child wants. We represent what's best for them, and we also tell the court what they want. An assistant attorney general once described the difference to a social worker who said, I don't understand why a CASA and an attorney, what are they doing? And the way the assistant attorney general explained it was that if the child wanted to be allowed to play on the freeway, an attorney would stand in front of a judge and say, my client should be allowed to play on the freeway because he thinks it'll be fun and that's what he wants to do, and he thought about it and thinks it's a good idea, whereas the CASA would say most likely that that's not in the child's best interest and we'd prefer that you not allow him to play on the freeway. So that's kind of the difference in what we do. Part of the role of our volunteers is that they investigate everyone involved with the child's life. So if there are grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, teachers who have an investment in the child, the CASA will get to know all of those people. Our goal is that we want children to be returned home to where they came from. And we want them to go back quickly, because foster care is not good for anybody. It doesn't raise children well. If that can't happen, then we want to identify where they're going to go and get them there as quickly as possible and get them out of the system. So our next preference is to find a relative placement like grandparents, aunts, or uncles, or what we call fictive kin, which could be a neighbor, it could be a teacher. You'd be amazed at the people that you can find who love and care about these children, and when you call them up and say, are you willing to step in and play a role in this child's life, that do that even though they've never thought about it before. The last option being stranger care, and they would be adopted into a foster home. We have a lot of amazing foster families in Cowlitz County, but we want to try to keep children with people they already know if that's at all possible. Most of our kids do end up getting to go back home to their biological families, which is fantastic, and we want that to happen for them as quickly as possible, because the longer they're in foster care, the harder that transition is. When kids need to be adopted, we want them to be adopted as quickly as possible, because the one thing that we've learned over the years is that kids, no matter how little they are, know instability. They realize that things aren't the same for them as they are for other kids. I have seen 4-year-olds jump up and down and celebrate that they're getting adopted. I wouldn't expect a 4-year-old to really know what that means, but they will tell you, this is my new last name, I'm gonna live here forever. They celebrate as much as a teenager. We had a teenager at our National Adoption Day celebration a few years ago who got adopted at the age of 17. She was just a little bit away from her 18th birthday, and when she was asked, why would you want to get adopted when you're so old? She said, I'm going to college next year, and on Thanksgiving break, I want a family to go home to also. And that's what CASA believes all kids deserve. They need to have a place to go, and they need to know where that's going to be as soon as possible. The system is set up so that social workers change a lot. We ask our volunteers to stick it out with the kids that they advocate for the entire life of a case. If a case goes perfectly through the system, a child will have a minimum of 3 social workers. We want them to have 1 CASA. We want them to know that there is always that same face standing in front of the judge and sharing about their situation. Our volunteers have done an amazing job of understanding their role. Their role is not to sign off on what the parents want, sign off on what CPS wants. Their job is to conduct an entirely separate investigation and just think about it from the perspective of a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old who's kind of getting pushed around in the system. Ideally, if they have to get removed from their home, they only go one place. We would love for them to go back to their bio family. If they can't, we want them to find a permanent home as quickly as possible. And CASAs always keep their eye on that prize. The prize being that the child has a place to call home. I had a 5-year-old ask me a few years ago where she was going to live next Christmas. It was Christmas time. I think the holidays had just gotten done, and she wanted to know, well, where will I be next Christmas? And the answer that I had to give her was that I didn't know. And I will never forget the look on her face when she said, how can you not even know that? That kind of uncertainty is what children in the court system live with every single day. And CASAs are there to give them some consistency that I'm always there for you. You can always call me. I will be here the whole time this is going on. And they are there to make sure that it doesn't go on unnecessarily long. It's a very lengthy and intensive system, and our CASAs do not want children to languish in that any longer than they absolutely have to. We have some amazing volunteers who get to know their children in ways that I can't even quite imagine. We have parents who stop by the office all the time to let us know how they've done, what's gone on with them. You'd be surprised, even the parents who stop by to check in with us who've lost children, but they still got to know that CASA so well during the time that the case was open, because it was always the same person, that we've become their benchmark in the community of who they check in with. We have volunteers who've gone to the weddings of children that they advocated for when they were younger. I had a young woman who got adopted on her 12th birthday on National Adoption Day. She is turning 17 this month, and she called me up to make sure that I knew that she was going to her first homecoming dance, and wanted to send me a picture of her new dress. And I ran into her in the stores fighting with her mom and dad over what is an appropriate dress for a almost 17-year-old. And I can tell you, nobody would ever know that she was not their biological daughter. She fights with them just like everybody else's kids. So that's why CASA is important. We always need more volunteers, unfortunately. I'd love to say that we meet the need as well as we'd like to. Beth and her cohort Renee both have to carry cases because we don't have enough volunteers to take all of the cases, but we don't turn kids away. Volunteers like Tom do a way better job working cases than those of us in the office do. They don't have as many to carry, and that's the idea. They can really focus on what they're doing with a couple of kids. We do trainings 4 times a year, at least. I'm always happy to find more time to do trainings if we have more people to train. We are a nonprofit, so we also try to get out in the community and do fundraisers. We have an auction that we do every April if anybody is interested in attending. We have a dodgeball tournament coming up in February if you need to get out some aggression and throw balls at people. And we have a great new website if you just like to log on and see what we're up to. National Adoption Day is November 20th in Cowlitz County this year, and we will have 6 children adopted into 4 permanent homes on that day, and really be celebrating that right now. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
How many children a year do you process?
Recently, we've averaged around 100, just under 100, 240 children a year. And we serve them with 3 full-time staff, a part-time office administrator, and 50 volunteers. Our volunteers give an average of 10 hours a month to each case that they work. Yes, Jim.
I really don't have any questions. I do want to say that Corie and Beth have been there for a long time. I think almost my entire time on the bench. And all the volunteers. This is Veterans Day, but I also have to extend a thank you to your entire program. It is true that when a judge looks at a case, a dependency or a termination, they rely heavily on CASA. As you have so vividly pointed out, the other side is our advocates. You are the only organization truly looking out for the child. And we put heavy, heavy weight on their recommendation. They're out in the home, they're visiting with the child, and they exercise their independence. And so I, myself, appreciate you folks so much. And the bottom line, as prior Commissioner Rader would attest, you save the county a whole lot of money because
We do.
we as judges had to appoint attorneys. And again, they're advocates, but for those children, that would be $80 to $90 an hour or a set fee of $500 or $600 for one case. You multiply that times the number of cases.
I figured it out last year and it would have cost the county $2.5 million.
There you go. And that is saved because of volunteers and this wonderful organization. So I appreciate you and wish you well. You're truly my heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I'd like to give you a little mug and an application for the Pioneer Lions.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this today, it gets better.
Thank you.
And also one for you
There's an
too.
address here.
Thank you.
President Russ, fellow Lions and guests. Glad I had a day off so I could come in early and get signed up to make announcements. We had that urgent one about the spelling bee in March, I know, from Phil, so, we didn't have time to get to all these. First of all, Walk and Knock food drive's coming up. We are switching around a little bit. We're going to try it by route, so you can get your team together and sign up by route. I'm going to start the sign-up sheet right over here as we're doing the drawings. I know it probably won't get through the room at this point. I will stay after. I'm happy to stay some time and get you signed up for that. Coat drive. What's that?
For the new members, what is walking up?
Since we're in a hurry, basically it's a food drive that we started about a quarter century ago. We go out and we walk and knock, which means we go door to door knocking and collecting foods. There'll be papers that will go out in the newspaper, but it's important for us to actually stop at each place on our routes. Our club is responsible for the largest area of any in Cowlitz County, basically west end of the city of Longview and the rural areas west of that. It's a big area, big commitment. We need a lot of sign-ups. We're a little short last year. I'd appreciate if people bring friends to help with your route, whatever you need to do. But it is a wonderful food drive. It is the largest food drive for CAP in our county. So please sign up for that.
What's the date?
First Saturday, December 6th. First Saturday in December every year. The coat drive, a couple people have asked. Yes, Janice Hillman gave me a blessing, and I will start a coat drive with Salvation Army and Pioneer Lions. Please bring your coats. Obviously, working at the county, I'm not going to be able to collect them maybe every time, but maybe Vicki or somebody else will volunteer to help me collect coats a little bit at the meeting. We'll get those to Janice, and we'll get through those. And finally, please sign up for Adopt a Road. Last I heard, it was Steve and I signed up. We're the only people going Saturday. It's going to be a long route with just two of us.
Bye.